Welcome to The Cellar. Welcome to another episode of Horrible Fates. When I first began making content, I was still pretty new to it all. Over time, I feel my content quality has vastly improved, and this has left me wanting to go back to a few videos and stories that I feel I could vastly improve upon. So, today's video is based on my second Horrible Fates video I ever made. I think these stories are really interesting ones, and going back and researching them again, I found that I could really improve upon that initial video in every aspect. Now, before we dive into today's stories, I also want to give you all a quick reminder. If you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please consider subscribing and turn the notifications on so that you never miss a new upload. You can also find my merch store and social media links, as well as the link to my audio-only podcast version of my episodes, all below in the description box of every one of my videos. With that said, let's not waste any more time and dive into today's stories. A cryotherapy chamber is an enclosed space that exposes the body to extremely cold temperatures for a therapeutic purpose. In a cryotherapy chamber, you typically stand or sit, wearing a minimal amount of clothing, for around 2 to 5 minutes. The chamber then fills with air that has been rapidly cooled to temperatures between negative 100 degrees Celsius or minus 148 degrees Fahrenheit and negative 160 degrees Celsius or negative 256 degrees Fahrenheit. Cryotherapy is said to provide numerous health benefits, from pain relief and muscle recovery, short-term relief from arthritis pain, reduction of inflammation, energy boost, and speeding up overall recovery. There are many people that use cryotherapy chambers on the regular. However, research into its effectiveness has led to debate on whether or not it truly provides all the benefits it claims. Cryotherapy chambers started to rise in popularity in the 1980s and 1990s after being developed in the 1970s. The first cryotherapy device was invented by Japanese rheumatologist Toshima Yamaguchi in 1978. Yamaguchi wanted to tap into the potential of using cold temperatures to reduce his patients' inflammation and pain. With a little backstory out of the way, that now brings us to October 19th, 2018. A 24-year-old woman named Chelsea was getting herself ready for work. Chelsea was a night supervisor at the Rejuvenese Spa that is located in Henderson, Nevada. Henderson is a city in Clark County, Nevada, about 16 miles or 26 kilometers southeast of downtown Las Vegas. It is the second most populous city in all of Nevada, with an estimated population of around 320,000 residents. Chelsea grew up and spent most of her life living in Hawaii before she moved to Las Vegas with her boyfriend around 2015. Her boyfriend had just recently moved back to Hawaii to take a job, and Chelsea had planned to head back to Hawaii herself after another year or so at the spa. She wanted to gain more time and experience before opening up her own business. Chelsea would show up for a shift that afternoon, and from all reports, her day went about as normal as you would expect. At closing time, Chelsea would say goodbye to her coworkers as she proceeded to lock up and close down the spa. She was alone at the time, and after a long day, she decided she wanted to take advantage of the services her workplace provided. Chelsea made her way to the cryotherapy chamber. As she undressed and prepared to get in, she sent a text to her boyfriend, letting him know that she was going to use the cryo chamber before heading home. After the text was sent, Chelsea climbed in and began her treatment. The following morning, one of Chelsea's coworkers arrived to open up the spa. They parked their car and immediately noticed that Chelsea's vehicle was still in the parking lot. Upon opening up the front door and stepping inside, they found that Chelsea's personal belongings were also still there, like she had never left the night before. Chelsea's coworker would begin turning on the lights and started going around the spa to see if Chelsea was still there. When the coworker made it to the cryotherapy chamber, a horrifying discovery was made. Chelsea's lifeless, frozen body was still in the machine and had apparently been there all night. Emergency services were soon called, but it was clear right away that nothing could be done to save the young woman. An autopsy would be performed and toxicology results would come back. They showed that Chelsea had passed on due to asphyxiation. Upon investigation, it's believed that Chelsea lost consciousness while using the machine. The coroner stated, nitrogen used to cool the chamber displaced oxygen, sending levels from around 21% found in normal air to as low as 5%. Breathing air with this low level of oxygen can quickly result in unconsciousness and then death. There were no signs that Chelsea had even attempted to exit the cryo chamber. At the end of the day, no one knows exactly what went down or how long Chelsea had been inside the chamber prior to losing consciousness. Sadly, this is just a tragic story where a young woman lost her life unnecessarily. Now, I'm not one to point blame at a victim, but Chelsea did not follow safety precautions when using the cryo chamber, as you are always supposed to have another person in there with you to make sure nothing like this happens. My presumption in all of this is that this probably wasn't the first time that Chelsea had taken advantage of the free treatment after hours. She most likely had gotten very comfortable with using the cryo chamber and figured nothing bad had ever happened before, so why would anything bad happen now? Either way, a 24-year-old with so much life left ahead of her lost her life in such a terrible manner. I want to send my deepest condolences to all of Chelsea's friends and family. Now this next story takes us to Jingzhou, China. Jingzhou is a prefecture-level city that is located in the southern Hubei province of China. A prefecture-level city is an administrative division of the People's Republic of China, ranking it below a province and above a county within China's administrative structure. Jingzhou is located on the banks of the Yangtze River and has a residential population of over 5.2 million people. 31-year-old Zhang Lujuan was enjoying a day out at the AZG Mall with her 2-year-old son. Now, there currently isn't any readily available information about the AZG Mall, but what I was able to find is that the mall is listed as being around 50,000 square meters. If that's correct, then that would mean the mall is around 1/10 the size of the Mall of America, which is located in Minnesota. Zhang and her son spent a chunk of the day walking around and doing some shopping. At some point, the pair were walking around on the 6th floor of the mall. Zhang would make her way to a set of escalators in order to head up to the 7th floor, where the Angliang department store was located. Zhang, with her son in hand, stepped onto the escalator and was soon on her way up. From CCTV footage, her ride up the escalator was about as normal as could be, but Zhang wasn't prepared for what was going to greet her once she got to the top. Around 5 minutes before Zhang even stepped onto the escalator, mall staff members noticed an issue. They found that a panel had become loose at the top of the escalator. The staff were uncertain of what to do at the time, and from what's been reported, they weren't given any proper instructions. From what's been further reported, the company lacked any adequate training of staff on how to deal with an emergency escalator situation. If staff had been better trained, they would have known to shut down the escalator the moment they noticed something wasn't right. Back at the bottom of the escalator, Zhang didn't notice that anything was amiss at the top. It wasn't until Zhang made it around 3/4 of the way up that a staff member shouted down at her about the danger at hand. By then, it was too late. Now, there is footage of what occurred. I will play some of that for you now, but due to YouTube guidelines, I won't be able to play the entire thing without risking the video being demonetized. So let's go ahead and take a look at what took place. As Zhang made it to the top of the escalator, she lifted her son up in preparation to get off. Then, the already loose panel that staff had discovered would give way under her feet. Half of Zhang's body would vanish into the machine as she desperately tried to get her son to safety. She pushes her son forward as staff grab the boy and pull him away. Zhang's parental instincts kicked in, and in that moment, the only thing that mattered was her son's life. With her son now safe, the staff attempted to pull Zhang up, but within mere seconds, she disappeared into the escalator, being pulled down into the churning machinery below. Following the incident, rescue workers would soon arrive on scene. Getting Zhang out of the machine was no easy task, and it would take firefighters over 4 hours to cut into the escalator and find her. By the time they did, it was already too late. An investigation into the tragic incident would be done, and officials would state that maintenance had recently been done on the escalator, but it appears that the panel had not been screwed back into place properly upon completion. As the escalator continued to be used, the panel slowly worked itself free before collapsing. What's worse is that staff discovered the issue 5 minutes before Zhang was swallowed by the machine. If staff had done their job, Zhang would still be alive and that 2-year-old boy would still have his mother. What's worse is that the boy watched as his mother was pulled into the escalator. At the end of the day, this tragedy could have and should have been prevented. Zhang, as a mother, did what she had to in order to get her son to safety, and her quick actions are nothing short of heroic. As always, I want to send my deepest condolences to all of Zhang's family and friends. Gary Hoy was a 39-year-old corporate and securities law specialist for the law firm of Holden Day Wilson in Toronto, Canada. Toronto is the most populous city in Canada, with a population of over 2.7 million residents. Toronto is the capital of the province of Ontario, and the city sits along Lake Ontario's northwestern shore. The city is a sprawling metropolis filled with soaring skyscrapers throughout. It was July 9th, 1993, and Gary Hoy was busy giving a tour of the Toronto Dominion Centre to a group of visiting law students. Now, according to sources, one part of Gary's routine with students was to show them the strength of the structure's window glass. Gary would demonstrate this by throwing the entire weight of his body into the windows overlooking the vast city. Being that it was something he had done numerous times prior, he had zero concern over how his demonstration would go. To give a little more context, Gary and the group of students were currently on the 24th floor of the building in a small conference room that was adjacent to a boardroom where a reception was being held for new students. Soon, Gary would begin his demonstration. He turned to the window glass and proceeded to throw the weight of his body up against it. He bounced off of it like so many times before, once again proving to everyone that the window glass would not break. Feeling very confident in the moment, Gary decided to demonstrate one more time to the group of law students. Soon, Gary was in motion, and once again his body would slam into the glass window on the 24th floor. Only this time, things did not go as Gary planned. Now, technically, the glass did not break. It held strong as Gary slammed into it, but the same cannot be said for the frame that held the window glass in place. As Gary slammed into the glass, the frame gave way, causing the entire window to go flying out from the side of the building. The momentum of Gary's body took him right along with it, as both plummeted 24 floors to the street below. To give a little more context, the 24th floor of a building like the one Gary was in is typically around 105 meters or 344 feet up from the ground below. As you can imagine, no one can survive a fall of this magnitude. The law students watching on could not believe what they had just seen take place, as many of them left the building that day traumatized to say the least. Ultimately, Gary Hoy's death would end up contributing to the closing of the Holden Day Wilson law firm only 3 years later in 1996. Gary Hoy's death would be talked about for a long time and was eventually featured in numerous television shows, from Mythbusters to 1,000 Ways to Die. In the end, I don't think this was the legacy that Gary Hoy had hoped to leave behind, but hopefully people can learn from what happened and not repeat the same tragic mistake. My deepest condolences go out to all of Gary Hoy's family and friends. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoy the content, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel continue to grow. It's also very important that you hit the notification bell and turn on notifications, as you may not be alerted of my uploads if you don't do so. In the description box below, you'll find a link to my merch store and a link to the Cellar membership tier for the channel. If you're interested, please take a moment to check those things out. If you'd like to submit your own scary story or any kind of story recommendations, you can do so using the email linked in the description box below. As always, I do all the research, writing, recording, and editing for the channel myself, so anything that you do to support the channel is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you all again as we head back into the cellar.